And you can find out exactly what is and is not against the law. And you'd be surprised how plain language they are. You know, and I mean, that doesn't tell you the interpretation of every word in every court decision in the history of your state, but at least gives you an idea of the framework in which you're working, you know. But, you know, like I said, I'm a little more radical. To me, my camera is something that I have a more intimate relationship with and the government is going to control. For now, anyway. Okay, so we're going to do the similar kind of cannabis thing? Or you do
sitting on the corner.
I'm not going to play African American.
We got it.
Excuse me, sir. I smell some cannabis.
Hold on.
You guys, I'm not informed, by the way. I'm sorry. Is there a reason you turned the camera on?
Yeah, because I want to make sure that this recording is documented. I always, whenever I'm engaging in the state, I always make sure that I have good documentation for it.
Sir, this is a high-crime neighborhood. Do you mind providing us with some identification?
No, I'm sorry. I'm not going to provide you with ID unless am I being detained or am I accused of some crime?
No, we're not detained. We just believe that,
if I'm not being detained, am I free to go?
No. No.
We're going to go. Sir, we smelled some cannabis in the area. We'd like to clear you. If I could get your name, if I could just see, you know, maybe check your pocket, your camera bag, and just to verify for me that you're not the one smoking cannabis. I mean, we're near a school zone.
You have nothing to hide, right, sir?
Yeah, we're near a school zone. We'd like you to. We just want to make sure there's no crime. I know you don't want drugs around children, so if we can just do that, we can move on.
None of us want drugs around children, sir.
No, unless you're selling drugs to children, in which case you might be under arrest. We'd like to just make sure, and then
the cops are usually not this doctor. They're usually like scared.
Yeah.
But no, I usually say I have no disrespect for you personally, but because of my own conscience, I just can't provide you with ID, or you know, and I can't consent to any searches. So, is there anything else I can help you with?
Hold on. You're free to go.
Usually, never that easy.
So then, if you don't consent to search and you don't consent to ID, they have to get a warrant to search you, right? They have to call it.
No, I wish. That's how the Constitution is written, but that is not the way the Supreme Court is interpreted the
So then
law.
what do they do?
I mean, in your car, you're really screwed. You know, in your car, at the moment, I mean, to really interpret the letter of the law from the Supreme Court standpoint, again, I'm not a lawyer, but it seems like if there's probable cause, they can search your car, more or less, you know, in most situations. They can conduct a frisk of your car.
But they can't search your trunk in your glove compartment, right?
Oh, they can search your glove compartment. See, again, I don't want to get into know your rights here, but we do have Scott Morris in the house, so if you're more comfortable answering these questions, but I'm going to defer pretty much every what is my right in situation X question.
Can you ask if they, like, you know, apply to search your car? I guess they believe they have cause. You don't have to ask, you know, like, what do you feel is the problem with the dog?
You're allowed to do anything you want, you know.
Oh, yes, I call for cause. Well, what is it? I can't tell you, but, you know, I do have it.
Well, I mean, as far as asserting your, to me, when you're in a situation like this, you have basically about 4 goals. You want to avoid adverse consequences. You don't want to be arrested. You don't want to be detained longer than you're willing to, all that kind of thing. You want to create compelling content. You know, you want to make sure that the content that you walk away with is something that you're proud of and that you think is worthy of showing to others. You want to distribute the content, but there was something else. Oh, and you want to assert civil liberties. You want to make sure that in that situation, the civil liberties that exist as per the legal framework in that environment are exerted to the strongest possible extent of the law. So the question is asking that question, is asking, you know, do you have probable cause? You know, do you what is the nature of the cause that you want to search me for? Something like that. Is that going to create compelling content? Yeah, it probably is. It'll be interesting to see what their questions are. Almost always good. Questions that aren't, you know, why don't you go eat a donut? You know, that kind of question is not good. But questions about the encounter that are asked in a respectful way, perhaps invoking one of the founding fathers, which is a trick I like to pull, is those usually create awesome content. There was another question right here.
Oh, this just goes back to the car thing. Isn't it true that like you can't open anything that's locked? So if you drive like a Jeep where you can lock like everything, you're fine?
Again, I'm not going to answer assert your rights questions. Is it beyond the scope of a frisk? Yes, and thus maybe there's layers and layers to that.
I'll answer all those questions after your presentation is over. If anybody wants to talk about it.
Yeah, you got Scott Morgan here. You got the master, one of the main head
I want to hear more
honchos.
about video.
What's that?
Keep the video stuff coming.
Yeah, Micah.
Hey, I just want to ask a question to the group, or two questions. One, who is here, who came to this workshop because they want to create content for a website? Right. Who came to this because they thought that videotaping their encounters with police might serve as evidence in court to get them up?
Well, one thing that I'm trying to emphasize, and one thing that I spend most of the morning at my radical technology teaching emphasizing, is that these are not, in fact, two separate questions. Quality content is quality content, and most of the content that's going to be compelling to a judge or a jury is likewise going to be compelling to an audience. And so to me, when you are playing, as Tom said, when you're playing the journalist role, a lot of the same questions about compelling content are relevant, like be respectful, for example, are relevant whether you're talking about asserting your rights or whether you're talking about making your case later on to a judge, negotiations with a prosecutor, convincing a jury, or whether you're talking about putting your content somewhere, whether you're talking about sharing it with your friends. Hey guys, look at this situation that actually ended well for me. Whether you're talking about putting it on a blog, whether you're talking about putting it on your Facebook page. A lot, quality content is quality content with a few caveats. There are certain things that you might want to say legally, certain legal catchphrases like using the word consent and things like that. But to me, that this is we're talking about one thing here. One set of core rights that grow out of my heart, and I know that I can make quality content that's going to be compelling to all these groups of people.
Give me an example or some examples of evidence you could capture that could protect you in court and you can use in court to get something.
Well, the illegal search is the most obvious one. If you're in a situation where you are not consenting to a search and the search proceeds anyway, whether or not there's any evidence. If there's no evidence you may want to proceed with an internal complaint. You may want to proceed with a civil case. You may want to proceed with a complaint to the district attorney. And if indeed an illegal search takes place and some evidence is gleaned that is used as part of prosecution against you, then you have a much stronger basis to make that claim. The other one, which I hate to think about, but it's been in the news so much lately, is a situation where evidence is planted. If you have video evidence of evidence being planted, boy, that's nice. But those aren't the only two. There are lots of others.
It just still seems like they could pull the probable cause card.
Yeah. Okay, so then the other thing to remember here is that when you walk into a courtroom, and this is an equally important part of video training, is that when you're walking into a courtroom, you are in front of a judge that you've never met. They might not like the Supreme Court of the United States, and they might find your evidence very compelling, and they might be really sick of police conduct in their community. I know offhand several judges that I've met throughout my various ventures in courts who have been of that mindset. Again, your audience isn't necessarily the academic interpretation of the meaning of probable cause. Your audience is that judge in his own or her own two eyes, viewing the content and weighing it against their perception of the law and their perception of the police officer and their perception of you. So, I think that it's still good. I mean, it's even good to record a legal search in some cases. Now, if you are in a situation where you are a third party and you're looking at someone else being searched, then you've got, you can get the badge number, or someone being brutalized. You can get the badge number, you can get the face of the officer, you can get comments that were made. That opens you up. And then, in that situation, I'm holding the camera like this, and I'm exclusively looking through the screen to ensure that I'm grabbing the content that I need.
started doing this, you don't have an established internet social books that's set up like this. Do you identify any organizations, not necessarily directly related to drug policy, but maybe more like police oversight oriented, that would be good places to sort of send content to people who have something compelling?
All of these guys could probably do a great job. Bradley Balco at The Agitator is great.